Volume 4 takes a deep and profound look at the great visionaries, where they were right, where they recognized how consciousness relates to, indeed manifests reality, and where they were wrong. This first episode of Volume 4 introduces what it actually means to be a visionary. The Essence of Reality explores how the psyche which you are creates the reality you encounter. Come again. You found the essence of reality with unique insights into human consciousness, how life actually works. The reality you experience flows in a way that neither religion nor science can recognize. Here you see just how you attract and thus create the real qualities in your life. No God or any other source dictates your health, success, relationships, only you. To gain awareness of that inner-outer connection and move your life in positive directions, stay tuned and check out other episodes. We have much to cover. In Volume 4 pieces, we train our focus on visionaries of ancient times, those whose view of reality superseded the primitive beliefs and superstitions of their times. We'll concentrate on the great ones, Jesus, Gautama the Buddha, and Lao Tzu, whose very existence launched significant movements that grew through time. And we'll take a two-part look at Muhammad and his message on which Islam is founded. His collected expression was highly influential from his time onward, despite his clear failure to actually grasp or even mildly sense life's functional oneness, the main feature of those others. Prior to that, this episode sets things up with a look at the nature of being a visionary, what it takes, what it means. Number 42, next in line, discusses the ever-present difficulties of communicating perspectives outside standard thinking. Issue 43 then compares the visionary to the philosopher, how their views of reality and man differ in approach and impact. Issue 44 will recreate a talk I gave for the San Diego Ions group, a local group there of the Institute of Noetic Sciences, wherein I honored Edgar Mitchell, moonwalking astronaut who had had a mystic experience while approaching Earth. In that vein, the fourth entry of Volume 4 explores exactly what a mystic experience is, its nature, its significance. Tom Nair here, as ever, exploring consciousness. Perspectives here provide visual extension to my website, my books, and some 220 talks I've given to open-minded groups, sincerely seeking to understand life. Through a personal inner journey, I've come to see the oneness of things, an inner-outer connection of self with real events and relationships of daily life. Becoming aware of this connection, you can improve real life by finding and changing inner roots to outer problems. A clear, basically mandatory part of expanding that awareness of life's interactive nature involves shedding limiting beliefs that distort your perception. Many such beliefs are tied up in messages of the past. Archaic declarations woven into religions and popular lore became absorbed into your personal belief structure as you grew through childhood. They come to form your own worldview and self-image until you see the artificiality and fallacy to these old notions. They remain lodged in your value system. You'll compare real experience and ideas concerning life to that belief system and judge the world unfolding around you within its declared tenets. Indeed, until you explicitly eliminate those old ideas from your subconscious, they will continually distort your understanding of what you are and how life works. So Volume 4 here sets focus on carryover ideas from the past as embodied in the messages of its visionaries of renown. These are viewpoints held by real individuals that once were beyond common thinking of their time, and indeed, millennia later, still beyond standard ideas of our time. but they may or may not be completely accurate, and that in itself is worth exploration. Jesus' message requires 3 parts to cover adequately, showing first what he wasn't. Most aspects commonly understood about Jesus, particularly those woven into religion and tradition, are pure myth and unfounded declaration. These phony elements need exposure. Then, however, in part 2, we will explore his highly insightful parables. Numerous elements of those allegorical stories reveal Jesus' clear awareness of life's inner-outer connection, and they totally refute the core notions of the Christian religion that others built out of myth and lore about Jesus, much of which I detail in a 6-part subset of Volume 2. After clarifying what Jesus meant, the 3rd part here, issue 47, delves into his personal path to clear awareness, the historical and cultural context. We'll examine ideas available in his time that he must have encountered and regarded in order that he grow from standard 1st century Jewish thinking into some degree of awareness for the oneness of mind and reality. Visionaries, you see, don't appear poof out of nowhere. They're born like all of us. They learn to see the world just as their culture and traditions dictate. But wending open minds, they explore reality and ideas about it in the process of shedding old, fallacious notions. After those 3 in-depth episodes about Jesus, we'll look at the teachings of Siddhartha Gautama, known as the Buddha, or the Enlightened One, in 2 parts. Those flip heads and tails. First, where he was right, ideas he initiated that moved his Hindu traditions to greater recognition of life's real function. The 2nd episode on Gautama will expose where he was wrong, or more accurately, where he fell short of understanding the exact nature of cause and effect, the process of inner to outer manifestation. The 10th entry of Volume 4 will look at Lao Tzu and the Tao. Lots of the old philosophers' points to consider there. Some speak for themselves, some beg additional perspective to be added. Then the final 2 issues of the 4th volume examine Islam and its ideas. We'll judiciously avoid looking critically at Muhammad. The dedicated Muslim can be rather thin-skinned about objective regard for that man. Rather, we'll look at various of the Quran surahs and verses, what they say, how they say it, and what they mean. And we'll discuss significant traditions that extinguish some of the more moderate surah in favor of the more violent, as well as elements in Islamic tradition that limit a meaningful dialogue about that religion. But let's kick off Volume 4 with a key initial look at just what I mean by visionary. That in itself is prerequisite to maximizing value for all of these Volume 4 pieces. For consideration here, in my view, a visionary is someone who sees the nature of reality more clearly than his peers. All people grow up in a cultural environment wherein common ideas are defined as truth and indoctrinated into the minds of each generation as offspring grow through the phase of childhood. Most, in any setting, simply absorb common notions as true and go about their lives, following prevailing ideas and surviving accordingly. As noted, all belief sets seem true to the believer, so most find no reason to doubt prevailing cultural truths. But in any locale, practically throughout time, some few individuals are open-minded enough to question standard prevalent notions. Among those progressives, some few will indeed shed the old ideas, the myth, the lore, the superstition, the declarations that dominate, and grow to see more clearly. The great visionaries are those precious few individuals who stand out even from that group. They not only could see through popular myth-based stories and conjecture, but they also were effective at illustrating that clearer view and expressing their greater vision in a message that was shared and persisted through time. That's not to say that their views and messages were absolutely clear and accurate, only that they were closer to reality's actual function than what predominant cultural notions featured. Here's what's actually happening in life. I illustrate it often. You as a conscious self engage and experience each day a cascade of events and situations. These are not random or dictated by outside forces, but induced by you yourself. You attract patterns. By virtue of your comprehensive nature, you attract certain types of relationships. You manifest certain health issues, and you tend to succeed or fail in life. Consciousness and the reality it manifests are intimately related. But most traditional views of life, incorporating beliefs passed on over many generations, project causality out to other sources, to gods and supernatural forces in ancient times, to real-world agents in more modern settings, to chance and probability, to fate and luck. Most people simply absorb these popular notions and hold them as true. Their experience seems to confirm their held beliefs once again because life is interpreted literally through the belief system. So any set of beliefs seems true and accurate regardless of its actual veracity. Throughout time, though, a few individuals have seen through their programmed projection of power to recognize the innate oneness of things. It's the messages of those few individuals who had the vision to see more clearly, the fortitude to speak out, and the long-term impact of both. Jesus clearly saw through the rote law and prophet declarations adhered to by his Jewish culture, just as Gautama revised age-old Hindu notions to bring greater perspective to its insights. Lao Tzu had the vision to question all the theologies of his time and noted the fallacy of thinking during his Zhou dynasty time frame. Volume 4 will explore all of their insights as well as shortcomings. Even Muhammad, with proclamations not approaching the piercing insights of the others, did move his culture beyond the array of gods they had held, and he certainly had a major impact on the evolving world. So prepare for a fascinating adventure as Volume 4 gets underway. This undertaking, though, isn't crafted from mere ideas and philosophical conjecture. It will become, as you proceed, provided of course you're open-minded, a personal venture into life itself. In Volume 4 pieces, we'll concentrate on the great visionaries of ancient times. Prior to that, number 42, next in line, discusses the ever-present difficulties of communicating perspectives outside standard thinking. Issue 43 then compares the visionary to the philosopher, how their views of reality and man differ. The fourth entry of Volume 4 explores exactly what a mystic experience is, its nature and significance. Jesus' message requires 3 parts to cover adequately, showing first what he wasn't. Then we will explore his highly insightful parables. Issue 47 delves into his personal path to clear awareness. Visionaries, you see, don't appear poof out of nowhere. They're born like all of us. They learn to see the world just as their culture and traditions dictate. But wending open minds, they explore reality and ideas about it in the process of shedding old fallacious notions. We'll look at the teachings of Siddhartha Gautama, known as the Buddha. First, where he was right, then where he was wrong. The 10th entry in Volume 4 will look at Lao Tzu and the Tao. The final 2 issues of the 4th volume examine Islam and its ideas. A visionary is someone who sees the nature of reality more clearly than his peers. Most in any setting simply absorb common notions as true and go about their lives, following prevailing ideas, but in any locale, practically throughout time, some few individuals are open-minded enough to question standard, prevalent notions. The great visionaries are those precious few individuals who not only could see through popular myth-based stories and conjecture, but they also were effective at illustrating their clearer view in a message that was shared and persisted through time.